I'm gonna teach you how to model, texture, and render this watch right here in Blender. If you can do this right, you might be able to find a distributor who would pay good money to have this type of footage on their website. First, we have to find some good reference images for this watch. You can visit the website of any watch company on earth and find a whole bunch of pictures of watches. I want this one right here, so I'll open this picture up, right click, save image as, and I've got a new folder right here just for this project. This is where I'm gonna save all the references and all the textures that I'm gonna use in this project. I don't really like the resolution of this reference image, but here's how we can fix that. Go to this website called upscale.media, upload an image, and in a couple of seconds it's gonna process your image and increase the resolution. Not only is the resolution gonna be higher, but it's also going to look much sharper when you look at it close up. You can even do 4x and it's gonna be a huge picture, but this is alright for me, so I'm just gonna download the image right here. If you need more pictures of this watch, you can copy this code right here, paste it into Google Images, and you're gonna be able to find a whole bunch of pictures of the same watch from different angles. This right here is a great reference for the face, so we're also gonna save that. I've got a pretty similar watch right here, so I'm just gonna look at that as well as I'm working. Now in Blender, go to top view, shift A, image, reference, load up the reference image. I'm going to make it slightly transparent and just align this image with the center of the world and lower it down below the grid. Now we got a couple of references. Let's start modeling. Let me tell you something about modeling a watch in Blender. We're gonna have to start with a circle from top view, and it looks like the default 32 vertices might work pretty good. We just gotta slide this vertex backwards with double G, slide this one down a little bit to align it with this dark line here. But let's undo that a couple of times so that before we do that, we can extrude this inwards so we have a perfect circle in the middle. And just in case we mess something up, I'm gonna place a plain axis empty here on this middle. And that way, if I accidentally move this circle out of place, or I change the location of the origin, I'll be able to tell exactly where the middle is supposed to be still. And of course, we're gonna parent the object to this empty. Now extrude this edge and lift it up. We're gonna align that with the inner part of this metal thing. Give me 2 loop cuts right here so I can lower this geometry down and make a little curve here. And now we can extrude this down, delete everything except this quarter with this ear up here. Then give me a mirror modifier on both X and Y axes. And now I wanna inset this area, uncheck boundaries so we don't have this part here. Alt E, extrude faces along normals. That's gonna give me this little extra area over here. And now I just have to make this part a little bit smoother, but not this part over here. So with Alt S, I'm gonna inflate this like this, maybe slide this down a bit. And now when we add some subdivision surface, this part is gonna be nice and smooth, but this is gonna turn into this little edge here. Make sure you do the same shit on the underside here. And before we get cocky with the bevels on this edge, give me this edge, Control B to turn it into 2 edges, slide this all the way out, and this all the way out to here. That's gonna tighten up this corner a little bit, and then we can also lower this to tighten it up even more. If you really wanna push your luck, you can add another loop cut over here, but I don't wanna risk fucking up my geometry on the rest of this object, so I'm just gonna keep it like this, and maybe I'll change something later when I apply some more subdivision. Let's duplicate this so we have some backup. Select all these edges like this, the inner edges as well like this. Control B to bevel that. I want 2 segments in a shape of 1. We can delete all the faces on the inside, we won't need those. And now I think we're doing pretty good. Apply the mirror modifier, fill this circle, I to inset, then press O so it comes out like this. We're gonna bring this edge very close to the outer edge here, and we're doing this so that we can create this extra layer which is up here above this lower part. But first, let's fix up this stretched out geometry. We're gonna delete this long face, so give me a loop cut over here, and now we can fill this with some quads and it's gonna be a little bit cleaner. Now we can take this, extrude it up, delete the face in the middle, scale this circle up and lift it up. That's supposed to align with this edge that we can see over here on the reference image. Then we're gonna extrude this downwards a little bit, and there's probably supposed to be some kind of little step here so you can place the glass here. After that, we can just extrude all the way down, and that's going to be the face of the watch. Now we gotta bevel all this. On the inside, we're not going to bevel, but we're going to do a crease because I think this is supposed to be completely sharp. And now let's move on to part 2, which is going to be this little thing right here. I don't know what you call this. I don't know what I'm gonna name this chapter, so I'm about to Google it. So the crown has to have a little hole here into which it is placed. To create that hole, we have to ensure that we don't have to add any more details to this shape, because we need some more geometry for this hole. And to get more geometry, we need to apply the subdivision surface modifier. And if we apply the subdivision surface modifier, we're not going to be able to make major changes onto this shape very easily at all. The only place where we might have some details is going to be the back of the watch, but it looks like that's quite simple. It's only supposed to be a little bevel back here, and then there's a flat surface onto which another metal disc is placed, and then there's some other shit going on back there, which is going to be part of a separate object. So I'm going to lower this face loop, give me a little bevel down here. I don't know if this is exactly right. I don't really care. I think it looks cute. Now we can forget about this, so we're going to duplicate this as another backup. Give me 1 level of subdivision surface applied, and now we have some more geometry here that we can use for this little hole here. Now it's supposed to be circular and it's also quite large. So I think we just shot ourselves in the foot by applying this subdivision surface modifier. So instead we're gonna go back to having low poly here, inset this surface, and just slide some of these edges around a little bit to make this a little bit more curved. Scale this down. I don't feel like dealing with this shit anymore, so I'm just gonna pretend like it's supposed to be an oval hole. So inset with I, give me Alt S to push this inwards, bevel this, and that's good enough for me. If we really want to split hairs, we can make another little hole in here, which is gonna be a little bit sharper. Extrude that inwards, bevel this, and now we can start making the crown. So the crown is gonna be quite a simple shape, but we have to count how many of these little lines we have here. If I count these, it looks like there's approximately 12 of these on one half of the circle, which means there's gonna be 24 bumps in total, which means we gotta have at least 48 edges to start with. So Shift A, circle, 48, scale down, select, check or deselect, scale these up, and now we can extrude this. When we apply a subdivision surface modifier, it gets smoother, but we can just select one, Shift G, select similar face angles, and bevel the points. We're gonna pull these inwards like this, fill one, then from front view, give me Alt E, spin, use duplicates, I want 24, copy this to the other side, and now just fill in the rest of this geometry. We're gonna select this face loop here and inset it with I, make sure to check edge rail, select one surface at the top like this, and with Shift G, we're gonna select by similar area, set the threshold to something very low so we can select all these other top faces. Once you do that, we're gonna press I to inset, give me O for outset, that's gonna create a new edge around this, Control plus, and with individual origins, we're gonna scale this down on the Z and the Y axis simultaneously. I think that looks pretty good. Also bevel this part, and that'll do it for my crown. Now I just want a cylinder in the back. That can be 12 vertices. Flip it sideways, push it into the hole. I'm gonna make this whole thing a little bit thinner. It looks like my crown is way too fucking small. It's supposed to be at least twice the size. It also looks like my frame isn't wide enough to hold this crown. So from side view, we're gonna take all this geometry, lower it down further, and that also allows us to make a more circular shape here. So dissolve these bevels, loop tool, circle on this, and now we can have a crown here. Now let's make the strap for this watch. We're gonna start with a plane up here, scale that plane down and move it down here, and it's supposed to be almost exactly the same width as this gap between these two metal bits. Place it around here somewhere, push this down, give me a loop cut over here, then another one over here which we're going to bevel. Extrude down for a little bit of thickness, extrude this surface on the top and the bottom and scale those two apart a little bit. Give me a couple of loop cuts over here just to turn this into square tiles. I want a bunch of loop cuts over here so I can have square tiles on this side, and then I'm also gonna do 3 loop cuts like this, push this part forward a little bit, give me some faces at the end like this, slide these vertices up, extrude out with individual origins, slide this again, extrude again, slide again, extrude again, bring these two very close together. Now we can just connect this, bring an edge out here, fill this, fill this, fill this, fill this, merge by distance. We can probably do this a little bit better, so let's add some more geometry like this. Delete this inner part, and now we just gotta fill in the rest here. Now we're gonna bevel all the edges that go around this shape, and now we can start adding some details. The details here are going to be the holes over here, and also the stitches on the side. So to do that, we're probably gonna need some more geometry. Let's duplicate this in case we fuck up. Give me one level of subdivision surface. I don't know if that's gonna be enough, so give me one more. Now we got a whole lot of geometry to work with. Here's how I plan to create the stitches, and this is gonna be ridiculously high poly, but we can bake this as a normal map later if we have to. I'm going to select this edge loop that goes all the way around this shape. I shape this so it's also on the underside, and I'll go up here to select, check or deselect. I'm gonna put in deselected 2 and selected 1. Now in vertex select mode, I can just go Alt S. That's gonna create these little gaps here, and if I add some more subdivision surface, this is gonna look even better. I'm going to exclude these vertices over here from that, and now look how good that looks. Now to make the stitches, we're going to select this edge loop right here, P to separate it to new object, delete all this shit at the top. Now from front view, we're going to select all the vertices on the inside here, which are a little bit lower. Control B to bevel them, V to only bevel the vertices and make a small bevel there. Then once again, select only the lower part. Now we got all this selected, press Control minus, and we're going to scale these down towards the Z axis so they move further into the strap. Now we just gotta go Object, Convert, Curve, and in the curve properties, find Geometry. In the bevel settings, add a little bit of depth to this. Go to Object, Shade Smooth, reduce the depth to something more reasonable. And next thing you know, you got some stitches around your strap. They're perfectly connected with all the dents, so that works pretty well. Next, we gotta make some holes here. We need to have 8 holes here, so we're gonna select some surfaces on which we're going to create the holes. When you do that, make sure that you select this in wireframe mode, so you also select the faces on the other side so we can cut the holes here. So select this, one more, which is gonna be 4 faces apart, another one up here, and a 4th one above that. With individual origins, we're gonna extrude, right click, scale down, loop tool, circle, scale down even further. And now we gotta do the same shit a couple of times above here. Then select all these circles, W, loop tools, bridge. That's going to cut holes in every part here. Now we just gotta bevel the outsides. And then we got some holes. And now on the other side, we're supposed to have the same shit except a little bit shorter. Instead of a point, we gotta have a flat surface here. So let's extrude this. And this part over here is where the stitches are going to be. Now again, give me 2 levels of subdivision. Select an edge loop like this. Select, checker deselect. 2 deselected, 1 selected. Deselect the vertices in the front here. Then give me Alt S. And now history repeats itself. So select this edge loop, separate it to new object. I don't have to say this shit again. Just do the same thing we did a minute ago. Once we got this done, we just gotta add a couple of simple details. Give me a cube like this, scale it down on the y-axis, scale it down on the z-axis. It has to be a little bit thicker than the band. Delete the front and the back faces. Loop cuts here, subdivision surface. Scale this down, extrude, right-click, Alt-S, bevel the sharp corners, object shade smooth, duplicate this and place it back here. And now we just need this little metal thing in the front here. Give me a plane, slide this edge here and delete it, extrude this down. I think we gotta delete this face as well. Pull these vertices backwards a bit, extrude this down and bring it forwards. Lift this up and pull this down. Fill this. Give me subdivision surface. Give me some more geometry over here. Alt-E extrude faces along normals. We're gonna give this a little bit of thickness and check even offset. We gotta bevel all these edges. And finally, we just need a little gap here. So delete all this. Fill, 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 couple of loop cuts, fill, 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 and after we're done filling, we can just bevel this. Once we got that, give me a little plane, extrude it out to here, lift this bit up, then give me another cut here and lower this one down, straighten this out, subdivision, extrude, right click, Alt S, bevel this, and there, fucking hell, the strap is ready. Later, we're gonna bend this so it forms a circle and it looks a little bit better. Next, we're gonna move on to the fun part, which is gonna be the face. Obviously, we're gonna have to start with a circle. And before we jump in, let's make a quick game plan for this. Some things on this face have to be modeled and other things have to be created with a normal map. For example, this texture back here in the middle has to be a normal map, but these numbers can be modeled. The screws in the hands can also be modeled, and then the tiny little letters and dots here can also be a texture or normal map or something else. Then we're gonna get to the open heart, which of course we're gonna model, and this thing here is probably gonna be a combination of both. I can't think of a good place to start, so let's just pick a random thing and start making it. We're gonna start with this Roman number 12 right here. Give me a plane, make it very long and thin like this, extrude the top and bottom, then extrude the sides. We got our first number 1, so we're gonna duplicate that and bring one over here, then duplicate it again to the other side, and this other side we're gonna transform into the X. Do that first. Let's shift this over here. We're gonna mirror it from the middle, but this segment over here has to be a lot thinner, so with individual origins we're gonna scale these edges down like this. We can adjust the width by just moving this inward. Give me this little auto merge vertices thing up here. In the options, we're gonna check split edges and faces, then select this edge, G click without moving it. That's gonna create 2 vertices right here. We're gonna do the same thing with this edge. Now this is connected properly. That gives us number 12. We're also gonna need number 3 over here. To do that, we're first going to bring this into the middle of the watch over here. Maybe it would be a good idea to place an empty in the middle of this shape, and if we have that right there, we can parent these 2 shapes onto that empty object. Now we know this is exactly in the middle. We're gonna place it over the reference like this. Now place the 3D cursor in the middle of this number, duplicate this and mirror it over to the other side, snap that shit in the middle, lift it back up here, and now just rotate by 90 degrees around the middle. Now we also got number 3. The rest of the things here are just little simple lines. It kind of looks like that thing that chicks use to file their nails, right? So give me a plane, make it long and thin just like one of the numbers here. Control B and V to bevel the vertices, merge by distance, and with the 3D cursor in the center, we're gonna press Alt E spin, use duplicates. I want 12 of these for 12 hours. On the bottom, we're gonna duplicate one and place it over here on the other side, and we're gonna do the same thing over here where the number 9 is supposed to be. Delete this and delete this. Now we can join all these numbers into the same object. We gotta check the normals, so we have to invert the normals on these red ones with Shift N, and now we can just extrude everything to give it a little bit of thickness. We can delete the faces at the bottom, place this onto the surface, object, shade auto smooth, and now the numbers are good to go. Let's parent that to the face. Now we gotta make 2 circular holes here which are connected. I don't want to waste any time on making good topology, so give me a cylinder with 16 vertices, place it over here. Give me another one over here. Give me a smaller cylinder here and down here. Now give me a Boolean modifier, target this, apply, delete, and now we can delete all this geometry on the inside. We're gonna try to clean this up a little bit, and once we got this shit under control a little bit, we're gonna select all the edges, extrude and pull them downwards. I like how this looks when we bevel it, so we're gonna bevel it twice, and when we add some subdivision surface, I think this looks pretty damn clean. Next, let's figure out a way to make the hands. So give me some geometry from over here, inset, loop tools, circle, place that right here in the middle. middle, extrude and lower it down, and now I want a cylinder in this hole. This cylinder has to have something going on up here like this. That's gonna be the hour hand. Then we're gonna duplicate this and bring it up on top here so I have the same thickness on both discs. This new disc is gonna be for the minute hand, and then do this one more time for the second hand. That's gonna be a separate object, so we're just gonna make a little hole here at the top. For the hour hand, we're gonna extrude 3 faces out like this, scale that down a little to something like this, and then extrude it all the way to the end of the handle. We're gonna need a couple of loop cuts over here to make this part wider, a few more to adjust the shape in the middle, and we're gonna bevel all these to make them a little bit smoother. And once we got the hour hand, we can separate it to new object. And now for the second hand, we're gonna do basically the same shit. Now the second hand has to be a little bit different because it's going to have a bit of a different shape. It's not curved or anything, it's just a straight line with a couple of circles. So let's do a 32 vertex circle in the middle, then let's duplicate that and place it somewhere over here. Extrude both of those inwards like this, and we're gonna connect 2 edges from the outside of each circle. Then extrude 2 more edges on this side and 2 more edges backwards. Extrude this one more time. Give me a couple of loop cuts, delete the geometry in the middle, loop tool circle, and now we also got a circle in the back. Extrude this down, shade auto smooth, and now all the hands are good to go as well. Now before we get to the best part of the modeling, we're just gonna set up a few quick things and then we can start doing the heart. Give me a 64 vertex circle, fill this. We're gonna join some vertices on the opposite sides, then extrude, and one more time extrude this outer part. Object, shade auto smooth, and maybe we can bevel something like this for shading purposes. Now we got a screw which we're gonna place over here in this hole, and give me another one over here. Next, I want another circle in the middle here. Inset that like this, and on the inside I want to make this little cutout here, so we're gonna extrude it inwards again. Give me a circle in the middle, delete half of this segment here, then give me another loop cut over here, lift this up, and now with a subdivision surface modifier, this is gonna look pretty cute. The inside stuff here we can do with a texture. Give me some thickness on this. Now that we got this in place, let's make the mechanism that we need for the heart here. Get this second hand out of the way, and then right here in the middle of my circle, I want another circle which is gonna have, let's say, 16 vertices. My model is not perfectly aligned with the reference, but it doesn't matter. We're gonna extrude this out a little bit like this. Give me a loop cut so I can make this part up here, and then we're gonna extrude this all the way to the end here. Let's do sub D, adjust the vertices a little bit better, relax this, and now we're gonna inset this area, turn it into a circle. I don't really care how the geometry looks here. As long as the outline of this shape is good, I'm happy. Now extrude these 2 edges up here, bring this up to this side, another loop cut over here to reshape it a little bit, extrude some more stuff here in the back, fill this, inset an area over here, loop tool, circle, and we're just gonna extrude some edges out here, and then down here on the bottom we're also gonna extrude some edges. Extrude this, fill it with some random faces like this, extrude another edge, fill this, loop cut here, fill this, inset, loop tool, circle, and then we're gonna take all these circular holes, fill them, inset them, lower them down, delete, extrude, mirror on the z-axis, select all sharp edges, and we're gonna bevel every sharp edge on this mesh. We're gonna lower this into the hole. I'm gonna add a circle here with 18 vertices. Delete 2/3 of this circle. Extrude this part inwards. Select this part and loop tools relax. Delete this outer geometry. Now with the cursor in the middle, Alt E, spin, 3, use duplicates, merge by distance, subdivide this, fill, inset, delete. We got another circle in the middle, so we're gonna place that there. Extrude both of these to give them some thickness. Bevel their sharp edges. And we got some kind of little crystal in the middle. So give me a cube. Scale the cube down 3 levels of subdivision, delete, cast modifier, factor 1, apply, delete the lower half, flatten this out, scale this down to the z-axis to flatten it out, object, shade smooth. We can make another outer frame with another circle here. And then we got some details in the middle of this. Over here I'm gonna do something a lot more simple. Just duplicate this circle, extrude it inwards, give me a loop cut like this and lift that up, bevel it, inset this again, fill, extrude it down, give me a loop cut here, extrude this part down, delete the faces at the bottom, and bevel all the sharp edges. I'm gonna copy the shape from over here, separate to new object, place the origin in the middle, 3D cursor on this next circle and snap that shit over there. Adjust the scale if you have to. Then we're just gonna copy this middle part one more time, and we're going to place that in this smallest circle here. That's probably the coolest part of this open heart. The rest is just some simple gears, so give me a circle with, let's say, 30 vertices. Extrude this inwards, take one edge and bring it inwards. We're gonna use some loop cuts to reshape that. Now Alt E, spin this 3 times, use duplicates, subdivide this, extrude to make some thickness, bevel the sharp edges, inset some little areas like this, extrude them down. That's just a cool little detail to add here. Place this back in the hole and scale it down if you gotta. This is something that we're gonna animate later because we can make this shit spin as much as we wanna. Give me another circle with, let's say, 128 vertices, turn it into a cylinder, select all the faces, select, checker, deselect, extrude all the faces outwards individually, scale them down a little bit to make them pointy, then insert Inset the inner part, flatten this out, delete the faces in the middle, extrude a segment like this towards the middle, and we're gonna do a little cube in the middle, select the faces around it, face, extrude individual faces out like this, and then finally give me a cylinder. This part is not even gonna be visible. This is supposed to be real tiny somewhere over here on the side. We're just barely supposed to see this spin underneath everything else. Just to finish up, I want another little cylinder over here on the side. I don't know what this is supposed to be, but we'll come up with something. Inset that a little bit, extrude this part, loop cut here, lift that up, give me a hole here, bevel the sharp edges, subdivision, and maybe we can use a couple of these at the bottom here. Now everything on the face is modeled. I damn near lost my mind doing this shit. So next we're gonna come up with some textures and normal maps so that we can finish the other details on this thing. Alright, let's talk about the textures that we're gonna need for this. We need an image for the logo here. We need a normal map for the background. We're gonna have to make some of these dots that go around the face. A couple of letters and numbers down here. This is just gonna be basic materials, but we're also gonna need these dots, this sunshine thing, and maybe a normal map for this. Then we're also gonna have to do something about the strap, but we'll get to that later. So to make the texture for this face and for the dots behind it, we're gonna go to top view, 3D cursor in the middle, give me a little circle with, let's say, 32 vertices. We're gonna place that up here on this dot at the top. That's gonna be the big bump right here. So we can extrude this, scale it down, bevel it. Now it's like a little rivet which we can place onto this surface. I think it's better if we keep this as a model. Parent that to the face. Now give me another little circle up here. This one has to be a bit smaller. Cursor in the middle, Alt-E, spin, use duplicates. We're gonna need 60 of these for every single minute. And we're also gonna make 12 of these rivets here for the hours. The rivets are gonna stay down here, but this is gonna be baked onto a texture. Place that over here to the side. Then we're also gonna make another smaller circular pattern. That's gonna be for this part over here, and that needs to have 12 duplicates. At the top here, I want a plane, rotate by 45, stretch it out like this so it's like a diamond, and we're gonna put that on the side here somewhere. Place my camera in the middle of this big circle, make it face exactly downwards and lift it up. Give me a black material for these dots, no specularity, render with a transparent background, give me a square frame 2048 by 2048, orthographic projection, and render this out. Image, save as, new folder here for textures. We're gonna name that dots, then also render out the other dots and save that as dots small. Let's throw that shit to the side somewhere and let's prepare our normal maps. The normal map is gonna have to be a circle with something like 256 or maybe even 512 vertices. In edge select mode, go select, checker deselect, X delete edges. That's a bit too many, so let's do 256. Now extrude the edges and scale them up. That's gonna give us these little white lines here. I have no idea what those are. Inset, extrude up with Alt S. Now place a plane just above this. We're going to bake this onto this plane as a normal map. I'm not gonna show you how to do that because I don't feel like it. If you don't know how to do this, then Google it. Once I got my dots normal map, I cut a hole in the middle, and on a layer below this hole, I'm gonna place this other normal map texture which I made in another video, or maybe I'll even use this other texture which I like a little bit better. Let's flatten this shit out and save it. Now I can't find a texture for this day and night shit. We got a moon and a sun on the other side, so instead on Google Images I'm gonna get a picture of a sun, and I can't find a moon face in the same style, but I can just cover one of them up so I won't need both. On a new canvas, give me a sky background, draw a dark blue line over that for the night time. We're gonna paste the sun on the day part, and give me a couple little diamonds like this just to add some more detail. I don't want to use the company's logo here, so we're going to use the Albanian coat of arms instead. Now in Blender, let's apply these textures. So first of all, give me a metallic material for the case. That's gotta be pretty shiny like this. Select the crown, link the material with the case. At the top of these numbers, we're going to add a dark material. That's gonna be metallic and shiny, but the rest of it has to be white. So give me a new material, assign that to the surrounding part. We're also gonna make it metallic and shiny, but it's gonna be white. We're gonna use the same metal material for this little part here. This little thing has to be pink, crank the transmission, lower the roughness, something like this will do. This lower gear wheel has to look golden, so give me a golden color, high metallic, low roughness. I need a white material for the face. These dots here are gonna be dark metallic. Now give me a new image texture for this face. Load up the dots, plug that into base color. We're gonna map these dots so they fit here properly. And I don't feel like doing any texture painting, so over here somewhere I'm going to select an area, add a new material, and also load up the face, duplicate that. This new material is gonna be called logo. Unwrap this surface separately, and we're gonna use that to place this logo here. Then we gotta load up the normal map, run that through a normal map node, and we got these other little dots over here. And on the inside of this smaller dial, I'm going to load another normal map, which I'm gonna run through a normal map node. That's gonna let me create these little lines here. And then I want a circle in here, which is gonna have this day-night shit going on. So we're gonna open up the sun texture here, plug it in the base color, unwrap this. We can adjust the rotation of this. I'm gonna make this metallic and a little bit more shiny. And I'm also gonna use this color map here as a bump map to add some more features to this. Also give me some simple metallic material for the hands. And then I wanna download some leather material from Ambient CG. I'm gonna go with 2K, whatever this is. I just want the roughness map and the normal map for this. For the roughness map, plug the color into roughness here. We're gonna use a node wrangler to map this properly. And then give me a normal map node, set this to non-color, plug normal into normal. And then we got a texture for a strap, which currently looks like shit. I wanna get rid of my roughness map. And now I got a halfway decent texture for the strap. I'm also gonna apply the same material to the other side. These things here are just supposed to have a simple black material. This can be metallic. And now we got our textures. Let's figure out a way to render this. When we animate this, we have to keep in mind that this is going to be 30 frames per second. You can check that by going over here to output properties, and in the format menu you can find frame rate. I want that to be 30. The reason I want 30 is because I'm going to edit this shit in 30 frames. You might want something different. This is important because this means that in my animation timeline in the animation workspace, 30 frames equals 1 second, which means when I animate this, my second hand is going to jump every 30 frames. I'm going to select my second hand. On frame 1, I'm going to keyframe the location and rotation in this position. Then on frame 30, I have to rotate by 6 degrees and keyframe one more time. I don't know if there's any better way to do this, so I'm just gonna skip 30 frames by 30 frames and animate each step at a time. Now, I don't need this to go on for 10 days, so I can just do a couple of seconds. And right now, if I play this, the animation is gonna be smooth. I don't want this to be smooth, I want it to jump. Even though in real life, the second hand here is not jumping, it's just slowly moving, as you can see right here on this video. Let's not sit here and pretend like any of us here give a shit about real life. Right now we're talking about Blender. So we're gonna duplicate all these frames with Shift D and bring them almost to the next frame. And now when you play this, every 30 frames it's gonna jump over to the next second. We're also gonna animate the gears inside this little heart. So this little gear is gonna start right here in this position. And on the last frame we're going to rotate it a couple of times like this. Insert another keyframe. Set the interpolation to linear with T. And now this is going to move as the animation progresses. This little wheel here is gonna have to jump back and forth because that's what I see on my watch right here. So it's gonna start right here. On frame 30 it has to be back in the same position, which means it's gonna have 2 back and forth expedition. On frame 10 it's going to rotate by 90 degrees. Then on frame 20 it's going to come back, so by minus 90 degrees. Then on frame 30 it's gonna rotate by another 90 degrees. And now if we just duplicate these keyframes, this thing is gonna be jumping back and forth when we play the animation. I want this to rotate by more than 90 degrees, so let's add another 90 to this. And that looks a little bit better. Now we got a little bit of animation going on the face of the watch. Now we just gotta figure out the camera and the lighting. As always, I'm using my HDRI over here. That's loaded through an environment texture node. And this particular HDRI I got from the Blender files because that's this courtyard that you got in the viewport shading thing by default. And as always, I'm gonna add an area light. I'm gonna copy that a couple of times, crank up the power, and we're gonna have a couple of lights arrayed like this so that we have some cool reflections from the watch. I'm gonna parent all these lights to an empty cube. Now all the lights are following the cube. The cube is gonna start over here on keyframe 0, keyframe that, and on a later frame we're going to move it over here, linear interpolation. Now we have some lights rolling by. Now I want another empty in the middle here. I'm gonna parent my camera to that. Give me 1920 by 1080. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit like this, and I want to start a little bit blurry. So check depth of field, reduce the f-stop to something like 0.5. That's gonna make everything which isn't in focus very blurry. And at first I want my focal distance to be something like 3.7, and then as the animation plays I want this to change. But I only want this to change after my camera rotates a little bit, so I'm also gonna keyframe this empty, then rotate a little bit like this, keyframe again, and now on a later frame I can increase the focal length so it's focusing on the watch. It looks like something like this will do, so let's keyframe that. And now when we play the animation we start blurry, but then it focuses very quickly. Now we got some cool reflections from this watch. And by the way, shout out to my main man PV8685 for telling me how to make glass transparent in Eevee. I didn't know you can do this shit, believe it or not. And here I am with almost 60k. This is what the animation currently looks like. And now we're just gonna go to output properties, set the file format to FFmpeg video, encoding MPEG-4, give me a destination folder, and now we can hit render animation. And this is probably what I used to flex on you guys in the beginning of the video to keep you watching. Now since you watched this video all the way through, at least like the damn video and subscribe to the channel. Join my Discord because we just hit 2,000 people. Let me know in the comments what you want to see next, and I'm gonna see you in the next one.